I'm Laura.
And I'm Mallory.
And we are here again on the campus of Meridian to touch base with you this week and see how things are going. So Mallory, I did have something that I wanted to run by you and get some feedback on, if you're up for it.
Sure.
So we've been talking a lot over the past couple of weeks about various things. We aside from the tools, we've talked about like signs and symptoms, right? So we had that week that we talked about seeing things in people that we're closest to. We had a week where we talked about talking to our kids and just generally paying attention to the people that we care about and the people that we come in contact with to see if something might be going on with them and ways that we can help. So I did that. I had somebody in my inner circle who things just didn't feel quite right. Some sort of classic signs and symptoms that there may be a mental health struggle. And so I approached the person and had a conversation, which we know is the right thing, right?
Yeah.
And it just couldn't have gone worse.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it went really bad.
Okay.
The conversation just went south really quickly, and I am not quite sure where I went wrong.
Okay.
So I wanted to kind of get some feedback from you.
Okay, so let's think about starting the conversation. What are some things that you said, maybe some things that you did, and try to think about a point where you feel like the conversation started going south.
Okay.
So like at what point, like what was said at that point, or when did you notice that?
Okay. So I started off in the beginning approaching very just very, generically and without judgment, just an observation, saying, hey, I'm concerned about you. Is this a good time to talk? And we sat down and I said, hey, I'm concerned about you and here's why. And I outlined just some specific observations without judgment, which, we've learned to do. So I just said, hey, you haven't been as motivated as usual. I've noticed that you haven't wanted to participate. I've noticed you don't seem to have as much joy that you usually do, and you had some different sleeping patterns and things like that. And so made the observation, and then this person shared with me some things, started talking, and so I thought we were sort of headed in the right direction. I mean, it wasn't like an open book right away, but it was like a reasonable response. And as they were talking, they were mentioning some things, and so I was trying to listen right, and I was eye contact and nodding and all of that. And I said, I really understand. I get it. Like I've been there, and just kind of told them what has worked for me before. And then it just sort of was like a wall went up out of nowhere. And that person really shut down on me, got very defensive. And all of a sudden, where they weren't like angry before, were maybe just kind of angry that I was butting in. And so,
yeah.
What do you think?
So I can assuredly tell you where the conversation went.
Oh, good. I knew you would know.
So the first things that you mentioned, discussing your observations without judgment, sharing some of the things you noticed, sharing that you're concerned about them and asking, hey, is everything going on? Those are all good things. That's something, when we're listening to someone, when we're trying to listen in a non-judgmental way and listen actively, great. Perfect. And you felt like things were good at that point.
Yeah, they were.
Some other things that you mentioned that were great were nonverbal cues. So making sure that you were attentive and nodding your head and all of those things. So we definitely want to do those when we are actively listening to someone. So I think that was good too. Now the next part is what I believe is when the conversation went south. So I know that you did this with good intentions, and I've done it too. We've all done it. But when you started to say, hey, I've been there, I understand, and then you shared some things that have worked for you, while the intentions may be good, that's often when conversations turn south. And I know that you noticed that's kind of was the turning point. Here's some of the issues with saying those things. First, do we ever fully understand what someone else is feeling?
Yeah, we don't.
Like, do we know exactly what someone else is going through, even if we've been through the same thing?
Because my experience with it is going to be very different from somebody else's experience.
We're all different people. We're not going to have the same experiences. So that was kind of the first issue with having that conversation. Good intention still, right?
Sure, yeah, because you want to relate. Yeah.
You want to relate to them. But something that you may want to say instead would be, I don't understand exactly what you're feeling, but I can see that this is really tough for you. I can see it's taking a toll for you, and this is why I'm talking to you. I'm concerned about you. So kind of acknowledging that, you know, we're not the same, but I can see that this is an issue for you. The other thing was when you started sharing what has worked for you before. At this point, it seems as though you were giving advice, right?
Yeah, and we know that that's not what we want to do.
Yeah,
you know, looking back, I kind of was. I didn't mean to.
You didn't mean to.
But I kind of was. And they didn't ask for it.
They didn't ask for it.
Yeah.
They you know, you shared your concerns about, you know, what's been going on with them, and they wanted to open up and share, you know, what's been going on with them. But in all those things that you did to try to relate to the person, it brought the conversation back to yourself.
It did. Yeah.
So, you know, listening in a non-judgmental way does include sharing observations. It does include nonverbal skills. But it includes really listening, and not listening to give advice, not listening to respond, but being okay with a little bit of silence, letting the person kind of share what's going on, and trying your hardest not to show judgment, but not bring the conversation back to you.
Yeah, and I think that, thank you for that feedback, because you're so right, and I know better, and I think that's a good lesson too, is that even those of us who have some training and education in the knowledge base, like I was so focused on the nonverbal cues, to be honest. Like I was very hyper aware of like how am I sitting and how am I, you know, how am I physically presenting to this person, that I let that one slip and started giving advice. So, so I have two questions for you. One would be, you know, is it worth revisiting the conversation, and what does that look like? And then if somebody wanted to learn more about active listening and how to have those conversations, what are some resources and some places that you go? Yeah,
so one, I think it's definitely worth revisiting the conversation. I think even acknowledging, hey, you know, last time we had a conversation, I noticed that looking back, some of the things that I said, I get why you felt, you know, guarded and kind of felt defensive afterward, and I'm really sorry, and this is why. These are why I said those things, but you know, I didn't mean it in that way. So I think acknowledging that. And two,
I can do that.
Active listening and listening non-judgmentally is part of the mental health first aid curriculum, which Meridian is offering consistent free community classes. So you can actually take the full mental health first aid course and learn more about these skills and learn how to use them in real life scenarios and things. So if you're interested in kind of developing your skills in that as just a community person, a person in general, sign up for one of our classes. Right now we have one on September 26th and November 21st.
And those are on our Facebook page and on our website. And then always remember too, if you are noticing signs and symptoms in yourself and in others, and your self-care and home tools are not working, and you need a little extra support, Meridian is by your side. We're open for business, telehealth, or in-person appointments. Give us a call, 352-374-5600. Get connected to our Access Center. Thanks so much, guys, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.